For over 900 years, the French monarchy had ruled the Kingdom of France with complete disregard for the lower classes, forcing them into serfdom and causing inequality, suffering, and economic collapse. Eventually, due to widespread discontent and crop failures, the French peasantry began revolting against the monarchy, and one of the people leading the new revolution was Maximilien Robespierre. French city of Arras in 1758, Robespierre was born as the eldest of what would be 4 children, to a lawyer and the daughter of a brewer. After his mother died in July 1764, his father left Arras and arranged for Robespierre and his brother to be taken care of by their maternal grandparents. At the age of 8, Maximilien Robespierre attended the College of Arras to be educated, and later in October 1796, he received a scholarship to attend the College Louis le Grand, one of the most prestigious schools in France. Here he was introduced to ideas that would influence him for the rest of his life. The idea of the Roman Republic, and also the ideas of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a strong proponent of democracy. In 1773, Robespierre attended the University of Paris, studying law there for 3 years. After graduating, he would write many essays reflecting his republican ideals until in the autumn of 1789, Louis XVI called an election for the Estates General in order to resolve the developing financial crisis, and Robespierre soon got elected as a deputy. The meeting of the Estates General eventually broke down due to unequal representation of the French classes, and as a result the peasants chose to form their own government, known as the National Convention. After the revolution began, Robespierre joined the Jacobin Club, a radical political club which sought to bring republicanism into France, a movement which he would die for. On the 21st of September 1792, the National Convention declared a French Republic, and in January the next year, King Louis was executed. Robespierre's dreams were beginning to come true, and with the execution of the king, Robespierre turned his attention towards the Girondists, the moderates who wanted to maintain a constitutional monarchy. With the king gone, Robespierre called for the ousting of the Girondists from the National Convention, and for them to be replaced with the Montagnards, a collection of radical parties. However, the Montagnards were losing support from the public, and so the Girondists refused to leave the National Convention. In response to this, Robespierre launched an assault on the National Convention and arrested most Girondists, cementing his power in the new government. And on the 27th of July 1793, Robespierre was invited to the Committee of Public Safety, France's new provisional government, and using the power of the committee, he would unleash terror onto France. After the formation of the Committee of Public Safety, France was being invaded from all sides, and so, under the guidance of Robespierre, the Reign of Terror began. Robespierre justified the terror in a speech, saying, "To found and consolidate democracy, to achieve the peaceable reign of the constitutional laws, we must end the war of liberty against tyranny and pass safely across the storms of the revolution. What is the fundamental principle of the democratic or popular government? It is virtue. Virtue without terror is fatal. Terror without virtue is powerless. Terror is nothing other than justice. Prompt, severe, inflexible." The Reign of Terror would kill over 26,000 people in a year. With this unprecedented power, Robespierre would execute anyone who opposed him mercilessly. At the height of the terror, in June of 1794, the committee would execute people for crimes as minor as selling bread illegally. After the law of 22 prairial passed, the executions doubled, with trials limited to 3 days in length, and would come to judgment without any evidence, only on the basis of the accusation and the accused's own defense. Within the span of 3 days, 156 people were executed. However, Robespierre still had one more radical policy for France. On the 8th of June, 1794, Robespierre decided that France needed a state religion, and thus he made one, the cult of the Supreme Being. A religion that believed in the existence of a god and the immortality of the human soul, and this religion was used to pressure the French into following Robespierre's policies through virtue. On the 26th of July, hoping to be re-elected to the Committee of Public Safety, he made a speech in the convention, accusing members of the committee and convention of conspiracy, but refused to name the people. It threw the members of both the committee and the convention into panic. Gathering in secret, the committee members plotted to get rid of him before the impending execution. At the convention, almost 35 deputies opposed him, mostly from the Montagnards. With no one left to support him, Robespierre was arrested, and after an attempted escape with help from the Paris Commune, he was arrested again and guillotined on the 20th of July, 1794, to cheering applause. Robespierre was dead. The Reign of Terror was over. Robespierre's policies and actions caused massive benefits to the members of the French Third Estate. His ideas such as progressive tax and voting by head allowed the Third Estate to be more equal to the First and Second Estates. His championed idea, equality under the law, meant that the Third Estate could be treated fairly, and his numerous reforms improved the lifestyle of the poor. However, his policies caused much economic loss for the first two estates, such as tax increases and government seizure of clergy land. And the change of the state religion for the Catholic Church meant that they lost huge amounts of followers. Ultimately, his reign of terror only caused death among common citizens of France, which sowed the seeds of dissent with his leadership. Robespierre and the Jacobins largely gained their support from radical members of the Third Estate, who mostly approved of reforms which gave them more power in running France. These same reforms also brought many out of serfdom, a form of servitude. The Third Estate also largely approved of Robespierre for his deposition of the unpopular monarch Louis XVI. However, much of this support was lost during the Reign of Terror, as it made many feel as though France was reverting back to the old ways. During his career, Robespierre met much opposition. Opposing him were members of the First and Second Estates, because his policies meant that they lost most of their power and wealth due to increases in tax, along with other factors such as equality and the reform of the French Parliament into a system which counted by head, which meant they could no longer oppose the commoners by themselves. Also opposing Robespierre were the moderates of the National Assembly, known as Girondists, due to Robespierre's radical thinking which they did not agree with, such as his proposal to behead the king. Some radicals also opposed Robespierre, demanding a harsher reign of terror. During the years of the Reign of Terror, most common citizens began to oppose him as his killing of French citizens caused outrage, and his policies reversed many of the ideas the revolution promised, such as democracy, fair trial, and higher wages. He also met opposition in the Assembly from most of the deputies in 1794, due to his claims of conspiracy and threats of execution against them, and as a result of the opposition, he was executed. Even today, there are divided opinions on Robespierre. Some regard him as a crazed dictator, while others regard him as a hero of the revolution and a champion of democracy. In Russia and China, he is seen by many as a communist revolutionary who followed Bolshevik ideals. Despite this, he is synonymous in many people's minds with the Reign of Terror, and so many have a poor opinion of him. Robespierre should be regarded as a hero, as his contribution to France and other countries far outweigh his negative actions. His reign of terror, although brutal, only caused the death of 26,000 people, around 0.09% of France's population at the time. And Robespierre believed that the terror was necessary to maintain national security during times of struggle. Robespierre's influence in the formation of a French republic is apparent even by the motto of France today, liberty, equality, fraternity, a motto first used by Robespierre. His ideas such as the rights of man and citizen were influential in the formation of the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Robespierre's revolutionary ideas inspired many more revolutions around the world, one of them being the Russian Revolution, where Lenin publicly stated that he had aimed to follow in the footsteps of Robespierre. Ultimately, Robespierre's actions led to French peasants being treated more equally and humanely, and for this, he should truly be considered a hero.